Hi everyone, welcome to a lovely sunny day here at Let's Do Bonsai. It's Saturday today, and we're going to carry on to today with the smartening up of some of the trees that have been a little bit neglected because of the building work that we've been doing. I also received a package from our good friend Tom at Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors. I have opened it up and I've seen that it's some succulent pots, obviously for succulents, and we do have a few trees that need a bit of a repot or a bit of work doing to them, or maybe slipping into training pots, and they happen to have succulents, planted in at the side of them where I've dropped a leaf in or dropped a cutting in, and it's absolutely taken off. So we'll go and take a look at the pots that Tom's kindly sent through to me. Thanks Tom, you're a star once again. And we'll have a look at getting some trees transplanted on or soil changed, that little bit of catch-up work, and at the same time we'll slip the rogue succulents into these nice little pots that Tom sent. So this is the package that was received from Tom. It came from a company called T4U, and they are 2.5-inch small ceramic succulent, and then a load of space in between, but obviously seeing the pots, and they're okay for home or the office desk or something like that. They come in lots of different colours. You see there's blue, green, a mustardy yellow sort of colour, a darker green, purpley mauve sort of colour, and a light blue, and that's repeated on a second level, so we have 12 pots. They also put in a bit of screen in there for the bottom of the pots. So yeah, we can have, he knows my weakness, does Tom. I have a real weakness for succulents and jades. So as we're working on the trees over the next few days, taking the pots and separating the succulents and the whatever jades or anything that I've been shoving in pots to see if they'll grow, we'll slip them into these nice little succulent pots. So once again Tom, thank you very much. They're lovely little pots. They've got like a crackle effect, and they're absolutely lovely. So I'm working across the shelf just up to the side that's up at high level, the trees that aren't really getting a lot of attention, and we have this I believe it's the Redbud from one of the grow kits. We've got a weed growing out of it. We'll just take that out, or maybe we'll wait until we've taken the pot out. It seems to be well established in there, and it's growing really strongly. If only our trees grew as strongly as weeds. But we do have a succulent in there, which this leaf was taken off of something, and it just got popped into that pot. I don't think this had actually even grown at that stage. The seed hadn't germinated, and it just got left to one side, and then this Redbud exploded and did really well. The label, as you can see, being in this environment, has wasted away, so we'll have to do better with the labelling in future. But let's take this out of its pot and see what we've got in here to work with. So there's lots of nice roots, there's lots of air in there. We'll grab the rake and we'll just pull away some of the topsoil just to see what we've got, and try and free off the succulent that was dropped in. That will just drop away. They have a nice shallow root base anyway, so we'll get that into one of those pots shortly. We'll just continue to rake out this top bit of soil. Don't want to agitate it too much, but we will slip it into a training pot and hopefully let it carry on working and doing well. You can see this weed has really taken root, and we've got that away. So we'll get rid of that. We'll just pop that back into its pot for the moment while we clear that away. So we're going to slip this redbud into this plastic training pot. It comes with a bit of a screen already filled in. They come with a tray to sit them on that just clips into position like so. So you've got the moisture tray underneath to transfer some moisture back up into the roots as it goes through. There's lots of little holes also down the sides to allow lots of the water to pass through. So it's a pretty good pot. They're relatively cheap. I believe I got these from Amazon. But yeah, they're very cost effective, and they look like they're going to do the job quite well, especially for this little thing. But we'll get it out of its little plastic pot, just rake out the roots a bit to see what we've got. This has done really well, and it deserves some nice soil. This soil's not too bad. It was organic with a lot of perlite in and ceramis, I believe they call it, some moisture retaining clay particle that comes in a lot of the potting mixtures nowadays. I know they use it in the Westland mixes, the Cacti and Succulent potting mix. They use it in that, and they use it also in the standard potting mix, so it retains the water, so as the roots are asking for it, it's able to seek it out and grab it. So we've got lots of nice roots there. We'll just give them a little rinse off, and then we'll be able to get them into the pot. Maybe trim a few off because we've got lots of nice good roots. We've got a couple that do a bit of a 90 degree where it's been sat in the pot, but lots of really nice roots there that we can work with. Very nice. This tree's done really well. We'll not take too much off because we don't want to take too much off the top, because it's doing really well up there. So this tree's done really well for itself. It's had very little care. It's grown all on its own. The root base is really nice. There's just one root here that comes out and goes at a 90 degree angle. The rest of it is pretty much nice and radial. So what I'm going to do is just trim this one back. Just get my scissors. Trim that one back to where it doglegs at the wrong angle. And then we've got a lot of these other roots that are going out and doing really well. So we'll just have a look and see how it will fit in the pot. It's a little bit long on some of the sides, so we'll just trim those back. I'm not worrying too much because we've got lots of roots to work with. We won't take too much off, but just enough to get it comfortably into the pot. That's going to work nicely. We'll just stand that up to one side, give those roots an extra spray, and then we just need to put some soil into this pot. Up in the middle, and then there's some nice natural flare beginning to come out on the base of the tree where the roots start coming out, so that's really nice. And this is the higher point of where the roots are at this area here, so they're a bit lower down at the back. That's what I'm calling the back, so we're going to leave that as the back, and then this is going to be our front. We'll not know too much about the branch structure for a front going forward, so this is solely on the layout of the roots. So we'll drop that into the pot and we'll just make sure that those roots are coming out in a radial fashion. So growing this from seed has allowed us to get these roots nice, and they've actually grown well for us rather than us, you know, looking after them. So I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with how they've grown. So I'll just hold that in the pot and drag my soil over. And we'll get the soil added in. We'll just see if we can work some of that into those roots. They were nice and fine, so it should help separate the roots as they were radial, and the soil should just penetrate and separate it quite nicely in there. Hopefully I can feel the soil pushing through the roots. I'm doing it nice and gently so that we don't damage the roots that are there, because we do want this tree to carry on living and doing well. We'll have to find some stone or some rocks to place on the top of this planting, because it's no longer holding itself in, and it will take a while for the roots to take hold of the soil and start gripping itself into the pot. But we should get a couple of years in this training pot, and the soil should help the roots strengthen up and carrying on doing really well. So that is not too bad. I'm just slightly letting go. Yeah, the weight of the top of the tree is just pulling the tree over. So I'm just going to position the pot so it leans against our backdrop as we just fill in a bit more soil. And we'll just work that in. Sorry about my hand and my arm. I noticed yesterday I keep getting my hands and arms in the way. So we'll just work this in. We have covered the root level, but that's not too much of an issue at this stage. The roots will continue to grow underneath the soil, and we'll be able to uncover that going forward. The soil's kind of finding its level, so hopefully it's penetrating into those roots and helping to hold the tree in the pot. But it is going to need some ballast of some kind at the top just to hold the tree into position, because the natural weight at the top is going to try and pull itself over. So I'm quite happy with that. I'll just tamp the soil down with my fingers. It's slightly just below the lip of the pot, which is okay, and we're going to put some stone pieces on the top to hold the root in position, to hold the tree in position. We'll just give that a bit of water it through. and that's all starting to pull out of the bottom now nicely. Slightly cloudy, taking the dust particles away, and we'll let this water run through, and then later this evening we'll give it a bit of a feed as well. So I've reclaimed some stones from a previous planting that we've done, and we'll just push them either side of the trunk and just firm them down onto the soil. And then if we pull it away from the wall, it is holding its own. The tree is leaning over a little bit, but hopefully as it takes a drink and gets fed, it will stand itself up once again. It was stood up a lot better previously. I'll just lift the camera up so you can see it. So you can see there that it's slightly leaning over now, but hopefully, like I say, as it takes a drink and starts recovering, it'll do well. I will just fit the drip humidity tray, which will make sure that it retains some of the moisture that's passing through the tree, and we'll put that back on the shelf and allow it to recover. So we have our succulent here. It's a bit wet where it's just been sat in the water. We'll just see how much root that's got. It won't have a great deal, I don't think, but it's obviously enough to feed what's going on up above. I'll just rinse it off in the bit of water that's in the tray here. Yeah, there's plenty of root on there. I'll just give all that a bit of a rinse off. So this was made from this leaf that was just placed in and around the soil, and you can see from that leaf this has grown. Now this is a Echeveria setosa, which is otherwise known as a firecracker plant, and it comes under the genus of hens and chicks. So we'll keep it in that twin style. I believe we're going to just drop the supplying leaf away, so now we've got a bit of a trunk and plenty of leaf coming off that, and I will dispose of the leaf now. I don't want to be continually growing. And what we'll do is we'll choose a suitable coloured pot for this firecracker, this Echeveria, and we'll get it planted into one of the new succulent pots that Tom kindly sent us. So I've narrowed it down to these 3 pots. The blue isn't too bad. The mustardy yellow I like, and the green I think is just too close to the tree itself, to the succulent itself. I think I prefer the yellowy mustardy colour. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one. So happy with that. I'm going to just put a little bit of standard bonsai soil into the bottom, and then I do have a bag of cactus and succulent potting mix which has been sat here for a while, and I'm just going to try and open this. There you go. Now this is the Westland stuff that I was talking about just a moment ago, and we'll only need a little bit of this. So I'll get a little bit, I'll grab it in my hand, and we'll hold the succulent in position and just drop the soil mixture around it. Oh, I'm a bit cumbersome here, sorry about this. Sorry to you as well, Mr. Tree, Mr. Succulent. So made this soil a bit wet, but it will dry out quickly in here anyway, so I'll just blast that, get it nice and clean. And we'll put that up on the shelf to dry out and recover. Some people will be panicking about how wet that is, because you shouldn't keep succulents wet. But in my experience, I've not suffered any ill effects with this sort of dampness, as long as it doesn't stay like that for any great length of time. So that will clean and dry out. We'll put it up on a shelf out of the way and let it recover. We won't need to do anything with that for at least a week. The next tree that we're going to work on is a tree that was bought from a local supermarket, and it really hasn't done well at all. Some of the ones we get, you know, shoot off and do really well, but this one, for one reason or another, just hasn't really done a great deal. Probably the fact that it's been left in the standard pot that it comes in, and hasn't been given much of an opportunity to do a great deal. So I'm going to be quite brutal with this one, and we're going to take it out of the pot, get it into a training pot. I'm going to take off these two lower branches, and then just up above here, I'll just bring you up so you can see, there's some branching up the top there. We're just going to take those back just to bring it back in a little bit, and then hopefully we'll get some of these buds pushing through. You can see that they were wanting to, but for one reason or another they've been restricted from doing so. We may take some of these leaves off up at a higher level because they're not looking too good, and then we'll get it repotted. So we'll just take a couple of leaves off up top that aren't looking too great. We're not going to take too much off. We've done more than what we probably should have done already. That's probably just about enough. So we'll take it out of its pot. There are some buds coming out lower as well, so that's good. And we do have some nice root action going on in there. So if we can break this out, see what we've got, you'll probably find that the trunk goes down a lot into the soil. Yeah, we've already uncovered an inch, and we'll be able to plant this a bit higher than what it was in that standard nursery type pot, and the roots will be able to breathe hopefully a little bit. There's lots of congested roots in here, but it looks like it was putting out some good root growth just now, so that's nice. We'll just rake out these roots at the bottom, get some of this soil out. These new roots that are there, we're not going to cut those off. We'll make sure that they go into the pot, even if we have to either get a larger pot or have to just bend them around the base of the pot. We're going to keep those new white roots. It looks like it was in some sort of recovery, because on one side of the pot they're all dark, not doing too well, and then on this side of the pot they were just coming out and doing nicely. So it was in some stage of recovery, so getting it into some soil and not doing too much more damage to it should help it continue. So I think what we'll do is we'll rinse the rest of this off so as not to damage the roots too much. Obviously raking it out, you're damaging roots. Sometimes it's just the crossing roots, but we are always going to be damaging roots in the raking process. We don't normally worry about it, but given that this one is in a bit of a recovery mode, we'll treat it with a bit more kit gloves than we normally do. So I'll just go and rinse these off, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. So I've got a bit of a decision to make. I'm in a bit of a quandary, because obviously this trunk is very thin. It's, you know, it's not even as thick as my little finger. So for it to become anything, we really need this to thicken up, and the only real way to do that is to get it into a decent pot and allow it to grow. Now, I'm one of the world's worst for saying, I know, let's put it into a bonsai pot or a training pot or whatever, and hey, look, we've got a bonsai. But I've had to keep telling myself, you know, it's not really an ideal way to do it. Just sticking a tree into a bonsai pot doesn't make it a bonsai. But having said that, a bonsai isn't a bonsai until it's in a bonsai pot. So this is a pre-bonsai, a very pre-bonsai, and doesn't need to be anywhere near a bonsai pot. A training pot, yes, maybe, but really I think what it needs to do is to come out of that smaller nursery type pot and be placed into a larger one, and then fill it with soil, stick it outside, get it into the sun and the natural elements, and allow it to thicken up, allow it to really grow and do well. And if I stick it into that training pot, that small training pot, it's going to be a stick in a pot near enough with not a lot of design or character to it. And you know, we've taken the lower branches off, which I regret now. We could have left them on to help thicken the tree up. And I think what we're going to do is put it into a larger nursery pot and really allow this to grow on a bit better. I need to stop with my my misgivings of thinking, oh yeah, it's in a bonsai pot, it's a bonsai. It's a long way from being a bonsai, and it will grow bigger and better if we don't restrict it at this moment. So we're going to go for the larger nursery pot, and then going forward we may even stick it into an even larger nursery pot, depending on what the trunk looks like and how the roots have evolved. So I've just got some screen to push down into the bottom. We'll push that right down, and then we'll get plenty of soil into this pot. And now we'll start to look at, you know, the planting level of where this tree's gonna sit. And I think I might have just got lucky and got it at the right sort of height there. Just shape the root system about, allow the soil to drop in, and while we're doing that we'll work the soil into those roots. So it's in some nice bonsai soil, but it's in a standard nursery type pot. So it's right at the beginning of its journey, and there's no need to go restricting the root system straight away. We want the roots to really go for it, and we want the trunk to thicken up, and ideally we would have left those two, or at least one of those lower branches, to help thicken that trunk up. So that was a big mistake on my part, but hopefully we learn by our mistakes and we don't make the same ones again, even though we will. But that's going into that root system. I can feel it toughening up. I can see the soil level disappearing down, but that's well in there now. A bit more working in of those roots, and we'll be able to pop this outside and allow it to enjoy the full sun, especially over the next week or so. We're going to have a bit of a late summer. We're going to have some really good weather, hopefully. It's supposed to be coming. So that's all good. A bit more soil just to top it up. And I'm happy just to leave that shy of the lip of the pot. Get our watering bottle, and we'll give it a real good watering through. And that's beginning to run out of the bottom now. A little bit cloudy as it takes the dust particles away, but hopefully this will pick up and start doing really well, especially over the next week or so outside in the sunshine. So we'll take that outside and see what our next tree is. So the next little fella to come off the shelf up above is I think it was a cutting that I took from somewhere, and it's a goat willow. So all we're going to do with this one is maybe just repot it into a suitable pot into some bonsai soil so that it can continue to grow and do well. It had a little bit of a bad moment not so long ago, but it seems to have picked back up. We've got some leaves in there that are a little bit snurped up and not looking too good, but we can certainly look to try and do something with those. I'm just gonna, the ones that are all curled up, I'm just going to pull them away because they'll be stopping light getting to the leaves that are actually any good. But yeah, a goat willow, new one on me. On my phone it did come up as an apple mint, so I don't think it's, you know, a minty type leaf, but I may be wrong. But it's supposed to be a goat willow, so let's get it out of the pot and see what's happening in the soil. We're able to just really knock a lot of this soil off. It's quite loose in the roots. There are some new roots forming, So it's going to be interesting to see what this comes like, but at least we can have a quick look at the root system, do a slight bit of work if required, and get it onto that radial pattern that we're always looking for, if we can. So we'll just go and give them a little rinse off, and then we'll clear up and see where we are. So with how this root system is, it's not massive, but it's going quite well. I think we'll be able to get away with placing this in one of the training pots and just letting it carry on in there. Going forward, we'll make decisions as always, but I think it will go into a training pot quite nicely. So we'll just give it a layer of soil in the bottom. We'll just check out the roots. That one is coming off on the side, but it's, you know, it's going to feed the tree, so I'd normally take that off, but at this stage I think we're okay just to leave it on for now. And then the rest of the roots are going to go out, you know, in a radial kind of fashion. This must have grown from seed, because this seems to be the big taproot that's going down. I think I'm debating now. Normally what you would do with a taproot is take it off a little bit at a time. So seeing as we are doing this, I will take that off after saying I won't, and we'll just take the bottom bit away. It leaves a lot of the healthy roots at the top, and we can position our twin root either side in the pot there. So I'll just push that to one side and let it lean, and then I'll get some soil. There's not too much root system to work in, but we will just work the soil down so that it can penetrate the roots, or at least push onto the roots for the roots to grow into. It can obviously get into the twin root at the bottom, so that'll be its anchor point. We'll just tamp it down with our root rake and see where we are. There's just a little bit of dye back there where the trunk had died back, so we'll just cut that away just to get rid of that little ugly piece. And we'll not take any upper branches away. And we'll just bring the soil up to the edges of the pot. And we'll give it a good water through and let it sit back up on the shelf for as long as it needs, and hopefully it will carry on growing and doing okay. So that's flowing through nicely, taking the dusty particles away. We'll just rinse the humidity drip tray off, and then we'll get that perched onto its tray. Clips on nicely, and then that will allow the evaporation of moisture back up and into the base of the soil. Save it drying out too much, but obviously it's not going to sit in horrible wet soil. So that's going to do it for the goat willow. It is well over to one side in the pot, but there's no major design gone into it as yet, and the roots are across the middle of the pot, so it was kind of placed across one side to allow the roots to sit in there and hopefully do quite well. Our final tree that we're going to work on for today is a Japanese pepper tree. This is one of the three that was obtained from a local garden centre. It was looking a bit miserable yesterday, so I didn't plant it up with the other two when we did those, but we're going to have a similar effort to what we did with the Japanese holly and the variegated Sarissa yesterday. We're just going to get it out of its soil and just have a look at it, check it out, and get it into some nice bonsai soil. If it needs it, we'll put it into a bigger pot, but it'll probably end up going back into this same pot. It's looking nice and strong up the top now. Yes, like I say, yesterday it was very miserable, not too happy at all. There's a lot of foliage up here, a lot of things crowding out other things, but there's also a lot of pieces falling out of the upper canopy. So we'll just turn that over and see what's happening there. We do have a dead branch coming off at the side there. We'll just take that away, and there's a bit of a dead branch just down there, but looking in, a lot of the rest of it isn't too bad at all. You can see where it's been pruned previously before we got hold of it, and yeah, we're going to let this grow and make the decisions probably next year, but for now we are going to get it out of the pot and get it into some new bonsai soil. So out of the pot it comes. There's some nice roots in there. It's been putting some nice roots down, so we'll have a look, rake this soil off, and we'll just check out to see what we've got. I'm liking what I'm seeing at the moment. That's very nice. Some good roots going on. It's holding a bit of water in this soil, so like we always say, getting it into the bonsai soil is going to be better for it, hopefully. But we'll just rake top and bottom in the standard circular motion, and these roots are pretty nice and fresh, so it's a bit of a shame to be disturbing them, but we are going to get them back into soil quickly and get them watered straight through. So we're not going to be totally destroying them and cutting them off. We won't be cutting any off at all because we've lost quite a bit just on the rake out, and there is a lot of soil to get out of these roots. So we'll just continue with that a little bit. We're exposing extra trunk down here, that's nice. It was buried quite deep. There's some interesting root action down here, down below, so we might have exposed something that was hidden, or maybe it was done on purpose by the previous person that repotted this tree. But we've got some nice trunk action going on there. That was a branch that was cut off, which has been planted lower. So I think we're at a stage where we can go and rinse these roots off and then hurry up and get it back into its pot, into some fresh bonsai soil. So we're not going to take anything more off of this because it naturally lost a lot of root during the process, and it also lost a lot of foliage off the top during the process as well. So all I'm going to do is get some of these pre-made draining screens laid into the top of the pot, scoop some soil in, and then position it in the tree. Right, okay, we're back. The battery ran out on the camera without too much of a warning, so we've had the okay, so that's turned into a bit of a nightmare. First of all, we had the battery run out on the camera, and then the SD card went corrupt. I managed to save the SD card, so there is the beginning of this video, which is probably 95–98% of the video. But since that time we've had the tree sat in some water here just to keep the roots nice and moist, and our initial base layer of soil in the pot sat there. So we need to get this tree back in its pot as soon as possible, and here we go. So we'll just get the roots combed out a little bit. We seem to have lost quite a lot of those roots, unfortunately, but they should just be enough for it to carry on and do quite well. And you can see that big piece of trunk that we've uncovered. It may be good, it may prove worthwhile in the future, but we'll just get the soil in and around those roots and come in with the chopstick get them pressed into position. We need to get this done as soon as possible because the tree's been out of the pot now for a little bit too long for my liking. And with the issues with the card, I don't know if it's going to hold up as well, so we just need to make sure that we get this worked in, get the soil in nicely, water it through, and get the tree back on the shelf, and hopefully it will continue to thrive and survive. But it's got a long way to go now. When I cleaned out the tray, there was a lot of root that had come off during the raking out of the roots, but I think, you know, it's going to be nice and warm over the next week, so hopefully that will help it put a bit of extra root down and purchase into the pot. It will be in here over the winter, heated and warm, so it'll be able to go dormant but not go freezing. So hopefully we'll be in a good position. So we'll just tamp the soil down and in. Still losing bits of foliage from the top. We haven't really cut anything, so it's a little bit concerning, but we'll give it a good solid watering through. I'll put some stones on. I've got a couple of stones here at the side, and get it watered in, and then later on this evening we'll give it a feed when we feed the other trees that have been through the same process. And fingers crossed everything carries on. I'll also see if I can find a humidity tray for the bottom of this pot. Place those rocks into place, and that should be okay. There's a lot of fresh growth up the top there that's growing in nicely, so we should be okay. We'll get it up and on the shelf and out of the way. So that's going to do it for this part of today. The battery's low, we need to get the camera charged up. There's still lots of work to do, but on top of that, Formula 1 qualifying is 10 minutes away, so we've got qualifying for the Formula 1 race coming up. Football's happening at the moment, so yeah, there's a lot of things for me to catch up on, as well as the bonsai work. So that's going to do it for today. So have a great rest of your day, make the most of it. If you do go outside, you know, wear a mask if you can, and be kind to others, animals and the planet. And as always, I will see you again in the next one.